Yeah.
The most pathetic thing
Oh, it's the
I
same
think
thing.
I have
Well,
ever witnessed is a former talk show host prank calling and calling dozens of times his old radio station.
Hold on. First of all, I didn't call him dozens of times the radio. I would do it. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. I would definitely do it.
Yeah, we called 3-4 times.
Oh, I would call 40. I would call 100 times. This is what I do, Chris. And by the way, this is what you laughed at and kissed my ass and said it was great and got first place bonus checks, like real ones. Like
This is what bought the gin.
Yeah, like we finished in real first place, not pretend Fantasyland first place, real first place. So you do this and do that. Pathetic. It's called being an entertainer. This is what I do. I like revenge, and now my revenge is on you. I actually want now Curtis to die. I want him to drink himself to death like Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas. I am rooting for that openly now. Just so we're very clear about this, I want him to drink himself to death.
All right, welcome. KMS Rundown. You got Red, you got Ziggy, we got VD. We're back again this week. KMS Rundown is brought to you. We've got an ad finally making that DEC money now. We've got an ad read for KMS Rundown is brought to you by Fez's Hair Follicle Restoration. Top 5 hair loss treatments for men. The hair loss treatment for minifans like me, but don't take my word for it. The Australian Mike Francesa himself, Menners, swears by this product. When he's not kidnapping children and holding them for ransom, Menners is enjoying luscious locks just like me. Call to action. Go to Fez's Hair Follicle Restoration.com. I don't think I should have read call to action there. That was just implied. Order yours today, and don't forget the promo code Menners. That's promo code /Menners for your hair restoration needs. Trust Fez. I don't know why Fez would do a promo code for Menners, but that's it. Okay, so KMS Rundown. We're going to get right into it. You guys heard off the top, we had the WEI and Chris Curtis sound from Monday where he's going at Kirk. For me, it was a happy day to hear that on Monday, to see that popping off on Twitter, and to have them actually react to it on the show when you heard back to it. That last, I don't know, whatever it was, 45 minutes to an hour of Kirk getting that sound and just being giddy and wanting more to react to. So I was fired up to hear it. Ziggy, what were you thinking when you heard that stuff on Monday?
Yeah, well, first off, did Willie Colon write that ad read? Wow, that was a good one. So, yeah, I loved how we got Kirk's initial raw reaction to the Curtis sound. It was, I do have Steve derangement syndrome, but it was good instincts for him to just play that without really knowing what it was, because we got that guttural reaction from Kirk. And at first, I think Kirk thought Chris was playing along. Yeah. Then he had Steve replay the cut. And once he realized that Curtis was saying he's pathetic, he's irrelevant, that switch flipped. And the Minifans, I think, we immediately knew we were ready for war.
Yes.
And last week I said, I think I felt bad for the little people at EEI. I feel no remorse for going after Chris Curtis, because he's a snake. He's a turtle, as we know. Never really liked him on KMC or Mutton Callahan. His only real talent was he did what Kirk told him to do. So he was basically just an extension of Kirk. So any other thing he did just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. He's always seemed like an asshole.
He's a pit bull. He's that guy who's constantly bugging everybody at the radio station, bothering everybody else that Kirk told him to go bother. He can just be a total asshole, but now he's completely flipped. And now I think everything that Kirk was talking about on Friday about Dale, but specifically about Lucy, I think that really tipped him over and really pissed him off for Monday.
I don't know if you remember, Red, but when Kirk was off the air and it was Mutton Callahan, well, before it was officially Mutton Callahan, but when it was Mutt filling in for Kirk, Curtis was big man on campus, trying to be the alpha dog. And then right before
high school quarterback.
Right before Kirk officially left, he came back and Visions Dave, this is for you. He came back and Curtis was all quiet. So Kirk came back for one episode. Curtis was all quiet. And I remember Kirk just going, where's varsity quarterback Curtis? And just he sniffed it out, put him right in his place. It was great.
Oh, it's so good. What was that like for you, VD, listening to that?
I think it was cool, kind of like Ziggy said, hearing his reaction. You could kind of see it formulate in real time. Kirk, at first he thought it was a joke, and then kind of realizing it was war, and immediately on Twitter, like you see all the attack sirens going off, everyone manning their post, and it came out of the blue. It seemed like I guess it was bound to happen. Like he seems like a snake guy, Curtis. I mean, I guess that's one thing you could say about Blind Mike. I probably have some hot Blind Mike takes coming later, but I don't think he would ever be in a situation where even if Kirk moved on from him, I don't think he would ever like be that much of a snake and kind of just join some new crew and kind of trash Kirk. I think he has at least that in him. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the war at first. It's fun jamming up the calls, but it almost feels like not a war because they're not even fighting back. I think it was a thing where Curtis just one day slipped up. It's dangerous being on the air that often. You're going to say something stupid. And unfortunately, his was provoking the Minifans and provoking Kirk. So he's going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, and that's what I don't understand is for Curtis to do that, I understand he's angry. But he doesn't mention Kirk's name. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, this is great. This is going to be start of something this week where, the Greg Hill show is going to start, finally chirping back. And this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And it was like, Curtis did that, and then everything else was we're not taking calls, we're not doing the text line, we're just ignoring, and we're going to get through this. And you saw it even today with Greg and Danielle not coming into work under whatever circumstances. It's like they didn't want to get into radio wars, and there's nothing I love more than a radio war or a podcast war. From what we heard today with Jerry, with Kirk talking about Jerry too, that's the good stuff. That's the fun content. And for some reason, they didn't want to get into that at all, other than Curtis just doing that one little rant.
I mean, I think they are. I disagree a little. I think they are contributing to the war in their own way. It's like psychological warfare. They're making the Minifans listen from 6 to 6 every day to their shows, waiting to hear a prank call. I mean, that's pretty ruthless. So
yeah,
yeah. That is pretty mean.
Yeah, it is. It is, in all seriousness, it is just so strange that they know. I mean, they all know that if they play along, which some of the people on the shows do, like the afternoon show,
yeah,
you're not going to get the vitriol that they'll get if they just ignore it or they take the cheap shots.
Right. Well, and I think VD, I think you called into Mutt, and others have as well. They've had some success with it where Mutt's going to play along. He's going to have some fun with it. The afternoon shows are going to have some fun with it. But that's about it. Everybody else is just ignoring, especially, I mean, Dale's just never going to take a call, apparently. So that's got to hurt him, which is great. I mean, nobody I love going at more than Dale Arnold, too. So,
yeah,
it was fun.
I think their big mistake is, like Ziggy said, we have to listen to the station all day now, but they're not going to win a war of attrition against the Minifans. Like, I think they think we're going to go away, but I don't foresee that happening.
Well, do you think, and so Ziggy, what do you think? I mean, with Kirk reacting to what Jerry said, is Jerry going to want to get into this podcast war? Does he want to go back and forth? Or?
Yeah, I mean, we know he does not want to get into any wars.
Right.
He served his time overseas, 6 tours. But, right. Yeah, I think Kirk and kind of Mike really crystallized it with Jerry, where the same fans that were at the vigil that, at least until now, quieted Murchison from attacking Jerry's podcast, like, those are the fans that he called pathetic. So, yeah, we know Jerry has no loyalty to Kirk, no loyalty to the Minifans, to the people that I guess were Cal fans. But, yeah, I don't think Jerry wants any trouble.
Yeah. Well, even what he said, like, for Turtle Boy and Cullinane to pull that out of Jerry and finally get that on a Thursday when this went down earlier this week, Jerry finally did it. I think he even messaged Kirk like, there, you happy? I did it. But he didn't really go all the way in with the EI. He didn't really name names. And what Jerry said about some of the cult fans that are out there, it's absolutely, he's not wrong. There is a Minifan fringe fan out there that sometimes can make it uncomfortable for other Minifans when it comes to, how they're representing and what they're doing and hiding in bushes and getting videos and everything else and scaring people and doing things online that are questionable. So there is that cult group. There's many, many more that are doing it the right way. And Jerry is as sensitive as they've come. And so he's blocked more people than Shaughnessy or Chad Finn combined. So he has no idea what Minifans are doing, what we're saying, what's going on online, because he's blocked everybody, under the sun. So I loved what he did, but it just seemed kind of soft, and it was everything that Cullinane and Turtle Boy had to pull out of him just to even get that. So
yeah, well, I think even Kirk kind of made it clear. I mean, people criticize Kirk saying he can't move on from anything, but I think kind of the whole Jerry war, he hasn't necessarily moved on from it, but I think he has like a firm understanding of what it is. Like he just says, Jerry's not that guy. He wants to just go and do his show. Like he would go back to EI in a second. And right. I think Kirk kind of just accepts that he's different and doesn't really have too much of a resentment against it. And I do think it's worth noting that, Cullinane just staring down the barrel of Jerry and Turtle Boy had no fear to stick up for the Minifans.
All praise King Cully, baby.
Very loyal. I think Blind Mike could look at that and maybe, take notes. That would have been a good thing to do maybe last week with Josh, just as simple as that, just saying the Minifans, look, they're having fun. They're doing their thing. Like, why do you have to criticize that?
Right. We're here. We are. We're just busting balls, having fun on here, talking about a podcast. Like, it's not that crazy.
I thought it beautifully done by Cully.
Oh, Cully's the best.
Okay, so walk me through, Steve. Don't do it right now, but like, how do you do it? Like, how do I not see you? Like, grab a bottle and pretend to piss right now, like you normally do. We're just talking. Good. Yep.
But even that time we heard the...
You're actually going to do it right now? Oh, God, he's finishing the drink. He's going to fucking do it. Are you going to do it right now? All right, go ahead. So, Steve, any other stories today? What else is going on?
Hold on a second. Let me look at the sound. Oh, we got some parody songs. You want to play the parody songs? I think we wrapped up the Kevin sound.
And you're pissing right now.
Are you actually pissing right now?
No, I'm not pissing right now.
Well,
I pissed earlier. Did you see the leader of piss?
What's up? So you can't piss at all right now?
No, because I've relieved myself. I am comfortable now. I am at ease.
Saying, put the water bottle on. Put your dick in the water bottle right now.
It's in.
It's in?
It's in.
Now that's uncomfortable.
God, that's so fucking bizarre.
It's really not. It's a human bodily function.
Shit. I mean, come on.
All right, so we heard that sound, shocking sound, as Kirk discovered that Steve is pissing into bottles in the back, staring into Kirk's eyes, taking phone calls, and putting his penis into a water bottle and pissing into it all at the same time. It's a terrifying image. I wonder, we're talking about how many times the show has gone to 3 hours. If you've gone over, I think maybe, 484 Ryan or whoever that guy is, if he could track how many shows that went over 2.5 hours, that's how many times Steve Robinson has peed into a bottle while he's talking to Kirk Minahan. That's a terrifying number. Steve is a psycho. VD, what do you got?
I'm kind of on, well, yeah, I think we can all agree that he's a psycho, but I think there's a couple important to recognize in this scenario. I've heard a lot of people saying it's not a private room because there's a window. To me, it's a private room. Waist down. Kirk can't see anything. If Steve can maintain eye contact and talk while pissing, I mean, if anything, that should be appreciated as a talent. I think people.
Whoa, VD! This is a YouTube show. We only shit on Steve Robinson here. What are you doing? You have the back on this?
Of shows that Steve said they rip on.
I'm actually the person Steve mentioned on the show today that said he should be selling his piss because there is a market for that. And look, as long as you're being sanitary about it, you're washing your hands after, you're keeping it. I think it's better move to keep it on the down low. Kirk and Mike were inferring that he should have announced it, which I think would have been a complete psycho move. And look, if there was a little bit more trash in the trash can, he probably gets away with it. I'm thinking he's probably gotten away with this move over 50 times before.
Yeah, well, to cut you off, he said that. I mean, he claimed that every day he brings it to the dumpster, which really makes no sense because first off, doesn't he occasionally drive Mike home? So Mike has never noticed that Steve has to take a detour to the dumpster to throw a bottle of piss in there.
I mean, we're talking about Blind Mike here. We're not talking about Sherlock Holmes.
But think about that scenario. So more than likely, Steve has probably got arm out, maybe, guiding Mike, helping him to the car. Other hand has got piss bottle in it, and he's got to get to the dumpster to go throw that thing out. And I don't know how good his aim is and what he's got on his hands.
I think we know how good his aim is.
Yeah, we know how good. He's got piss all over Blind Mike now.
And he said today that when Kirk asked who did the number 2, and it was Steve. Steve said, "Oh, well, I used hand sanitizer." Anyone that knows anything about germs knows hand sanitizer does not do nearly what soap and water does. So if he's using hand sanitizer after number 2, I can't imagine he's doing anything other than maybe spitting on his hands after pissing in a bottle.
I'm not going to disagree with you there. I'm not. But I do side with my guy Joe Henney on this, who said on Twitter, I don't think I know one man who doesn't do it, from landscapers to big finance guys. And I agree with that. And I think if you're willing to go on the record and say you've never pissed in a bottle, then I think you're weird.
Yeah, but see, now you're moving the goalpost here. Now you're acting like Steve Robinson. Nobody's arguing that everybody's done it, but nobody's done it, staring, dick in hand, staring at Kirk Minahan as you're taking a phone
Agreed.
call.
I just put myself in that position, and I think I would rather piss in a bottle than have to ask Kirk, like, can you hold on a sec? I actually just need to use the bathroom.
Well, what's stunning is the amount of times that Kirk has gone to the bathroom himself. So I don't understand why he can't just, excuse himself and leave.
Because he's got a bottle.
Leave Mike there for the one-man show. He can monologue with the best of them.
Oh, so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I mean, you have a point there. I think could he have made it to a bathroom? Yes. Do I think it's totally insane to use a bottle? No. And I may be in the minority on that.
Also, what kind of bottle were they inferring? Because I had the image it was like a Dasani bottle, but then they said a liter, which may be a big Poland Springs bottle.
It's got to be Poland Springs.
It's a sponsor, I think a Barstool sponsor.
So
I don't want to say it.
Okay.
But it's not. It's not a bar. But it's not a Barstool sponsor, right? Because they're pissing in it, and they don't want to show a picture of it, right?
Yeah,
but they don't want to show their sponsor's bottle filled with piss. I know they've gotten in trouble before, even for using sponsor bottles as dip spitters.
Because Kirk said something like, "Well, at least it proves that you're at least consuming the beverage."
Okay.
So that makes sense because that sponsor's bottle does have a wider.
It is a good piss bottle. Yeah.
You can fit that hammer in there. That's true. Yeah, good for him.
That ham stick.
Yeah, well, I will say the last thing I'll say is that Kirk can't even lock him down. Steve is such an experienced liar. He can't even lock Steve down on when he actually took the piss during that show. So Steve is acting like he can't remember at what point in the show he took that piss, which that is a high pressure situation. That is something that's not normal. He knows exactly when he took that piss, and he still won't admit to that.
Yeah, has anyone come out and speculated like when?
I saw some just before we started. I saw some speculation saying maybe it was like 2 minutes in or someone on Twitter put it
2 minutes in.
Yeah.
2 hours?
Yeah, maybe 2 hours. I just saw it briefly, but there has been a little bit of speculation about people hearing the bottle. But I haven't gone back and really, really listened to it. I might have to do that later today. See what I can come up with.
Just go to Dunks and get the medium coffee, bro. Like, just get the medium and you're all set. I don't know why he's been
pathetic. I have a small bladder, but my favorite Steve quote is this: the little clickety click of the mouse. So how can we hear every little mouse click when he's like trying to find a drop to play, but we've never heard him pissing into a bottle? So it's got to be a time when he goes quiet. Like that, I think that's what to look for is whenever there's an extended period of time where Steve's not chiming in, that's probably when it's happening.
Right. And I'll close it on this. I don't understand. Like, I've been in those moments where you're on that long car drive, you've got your bottle and you've got a good amount stored up and you're letting it go and the bottle's coming up to the top and it's panic time. And that's hard enough when you're driving. I have no idea what that's like when you're trying to hide it we can easily hide it from Mike. I have no idea how you're going to hide that from Kirk, not get it on your pants. Like, you've got a knife there. I don't know what he's doing back there.
Toilet paper. We know there's
shit tickets back there.
It leads me to ask the question, like, how long has he been doing this? Does this go back to the Howie Carr days? Does this go back to college? Who knows? Ooh. He's probably been doing it his whole life.
There is, I don't know if you saw the multiple Twitter accounts that surfaced yesterday, but one of them was created in January 2020. And its actual handle is Steve's like big piss bottle or something. And I don't know how long it takes for you to change your actual handle, not like your Twitter name. But that in the bio said something about the bottle Steve pisses in when during the some Howie Carr advertiser. So it was implying that he's been doing it since back then. I have not yet finished my investigation into that, but yeah.
It's a psychotic move.
Well, it also tells you that anytime he's driving up to like Saco or Madawaska, he's not stopping at a rest stop. Like, he's pissing in a bottle every road trip he has.
The game has changed.
Yeah.
Before, I was thinking, we're keeping track of how many times Blind Mike has taken a piss during the show, or how many days he's gone without it. More than likely, but now the game has changed. Steve Robinson has changed it. It's it's what he does. He's a terrible human being.
They found, like, in your mind, when should somebody be fired for saying something?
I don't know. I mean, like, if I keep using Ryan Seacrest as the example because he's a clean-cut, like, family show guy.
All right, if Ryan Seacrest was on the whole podcast 2 years ago,
then
he's like, I hate N-words. They're disgusting. They're gross.
Which is why I don't have.
They're animals. Like
which
Nick
is why
Cannon
I don't totally have a problem with Viacom firing Nick Cannon, but I do have a problem with them letting him do a podcast. They shouldn't have him do a podcast where he has rappers on from Public Enemy and gives his opinions.
They should restrict his speech.
If that's what they want, they're doing that right now. Yes. Go, what?
I guess I don't. I Steve to talk.
No. I guess I don't I'm trying to look for.
They're restricting his speech now by firing him, right? So why let him do a podcast at all? That's not crazy.
They're not restricting his speech
by firing him.
They're disassociating themselves from his speech.
Do they take all microphones away?
Well, they're saying you're allowed to do a podcast, but you're not allowed to say certain things.
Well, now he still has freedom. He still has freedom to do his podcast.
Neither do you.
What do you mean?
There's certain things you can't say. Say the N-word. Go ahead. I'm saying, but I mean, like that's life. Like, I think you live in this sort of idyllic world. You can just say. I mean, everybody should be able to say what they want.
They should be.
And it's wonderful. Yeah, but there are businesses also. Like, this is not pretend.
I understand. What I'm saying is, I don't think they would lose any money if they kept Nick Cannon.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the case.
Fox is going to prove that.
There also has to be a role for some kind of moral principle in what speech you're going to associate with.
Do you think ABC was going to lose money if they didn't fire Roseanne?
No.
Well, advertisers were already leaving.
Others would come in. It would be fine.
How do you know that?
Well, then you're right. Every time someone says something you don't like, they should be fired.
That's not what I said.
What is the argument here?
You understand, Mike, that there are some things that
you live in a pretend world. That's all.
There are some things.
No, I understand. Yes, these decisions are made for businesses. They are allowed to do whatever they want. Do I think they should? No. Do I think maybe sometimes they should wait a day to see if advertisers are going to pull out? Yeah.
All right. So we talked last week about Mike putting up more of a fight, and we got a little bit of Mike putting up a fight this week when he's talking about cancel culture and Nick Cannon. And I don't know about you guys, but maybe Mike shouldn't put up a fight because I was very confused about what he was trying to say with Nick Cannon. I don't know if he was sticking up for him, but then he was okay with canceling him and firing him. And at one point, Mike was going to let everybody say whatever they wanted, and sponsors don't matter and money doesn't matter. And he wants to stick up for everybody who says anything racist. The biggest thing that bothers me, and then Ziggy, I'm going to let you go, but when Mike says, "What do you mean?" in an argument, when Kirk is going at him and he just questions, "What do you mean?" He's just playing dumb and he doesn't have a response. That's like, it makes my blood boil. Like, dude, you're in an argument. You're having a rant. You're fighting with Kirk. Stop saying, "What do you mean?" Like, you understand. He's just saying words that are, not that hard to understand. But Ziggy, what do you got on that?
Well, first off, when DC, or no, rather when Menner said you were condescending, I think that's what he was talking about.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
We'll get to it later. You called Mike dumb.
I did not call him dumb. What did I
you said you said he plays dumb, which is actually kind of an insult because I think he is just dumb.
No, hold on. Okay, no, I'm going to push back on you, Ziggy. Okay, he says, "What do you mean?" It's a tick that he uses. It's a tool that he uses to gather time to form his argument. Kirk isn't using big words. He's not Steve. He's using very clear words in his argument. And then Mike says, "What do you mean?" That's playing dumb because Mike is smart. That's not me being condescending. Sure. But the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I think it was Thursday that really dove into the topic, but there was a moment on Wednesday when they briefly talked about the Nick Cannon stuff, and Mike gave his initial thoughts, and then Kirk brought the truth, and then Mike what Kirk said went against what Mike said, and Mike was like, "All right, yeah, sure," and you could tell he disagreed at the time, but he didn't really push back. So I was glad that Thursday they got into it. Yeah. But when you really when Mike really pulls back on a serious issue, he ends up just wrapping himself into a mental pretzel. And I think that's just what happened here. Like they attack specifically Mike, that's his main serious subject that he loves getting into, and they talk ad nauseum about it. Yet I still have no idea what his thoughts are on cancel culture. I could not give you an elevator pitch of what he thinks on it.
No clue. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what I can tell you is what he very clearly says is Tucker Carlson should be able to call black people animals and still keep their job. Yes. And Tucker Carlson's writer should be able to post racist comments because he did so anonymously. So
right.
We do know that, but we know nothing else.
And he did say, you should be able to say the N-word when they're discussing the N-word in the show. And then also his comment was, I think we do that shit all the time, referring to the shows. And then he said, do we not defend white people who say racist shit? And I was like, and then he couldn't come up with an example of that happening. So I was completely rattled. I was like, I was fired up. Mike's putting up a fight, and then he put himself in a pretzel, and then Kirk just buried him in there.
What do you mean?
What do you mean, VD? What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm with you. As soon as I heard that clip of him saying, like, we defend racist people, it's what we do, I paused right away and I listened to it again, and I clipped it right away because I was just so confused. And both you guys are right when you say, like, I've heard Mike probably talk about cancel culture for probably like 5 to 6 hours if you add up all the history of the shows of the time he's talked about it. And I have no idea what his stance is on it. He starts off, like you said, by saying, yeah, you should be able to say anything. And it really reminds me of when I was like 14 and first started smoking pot and was like, yeah, man, all drugs should be legal. Like school should be optional. Everything should be free. And it's like Kirk said, he just lives in this kind of pretend world. And his take of saying that having Nick Cannon host a network TV show after he made those comments, it wouldn't affect the business, is just like so astoundingly stupid. I can't even wrap my mind around it. And yeah, like you said, he starts off saying you should be able to say whatever you want. And then it ends up with Steve and Kirk kind of just double teaming him into saying, well, yeah, so now actually you believe that Kirk should have been fired.
Right. And I wish Steve would get out of the way in that moment. Like, I understand Steve's a contributor on the mic because he feels like he has to be at times. And he does contribute a lot to the show in that way. When Mike, can't contribute things when they're talking about current events and politics. But in that situation, like Mike's good. Like he's yelling. Mike is screaming. Like, Steve, get the fuck out of the way.
See, for me,
and let Mike go.
I like Steve. One of my favorite Steves is condescending Steve. Anytime Mike tries to talk about anything out of his intellectual realm, which is usually anything.
Wait, you don't know where Nordic people are from?
Yeah. Like, just the instant disgust that you can hear in Steve's face is so. It's like when Mike didn't know how many like Supreme Court judges there were. Just things like that. Steve just lives for that, and I kind of like when Steve gets super condescending with him. I think Kirk does too. I mean, even listening back to older shows, he used to try to push that tension between Mike and Steve a lot more. Now I think they're kind of buddy-buddy, and it's lost a little bit of that edge. And Steve has clearly just, dominated the second role. But I do kind of like that dynamic of Steve kind of turning his nose to Mike.
I wish Steve, and I don't want to spend all my time shitting on Steve. I know it's a YouTube show, but if he could turn down Mike's levels, that would be great, because Mike is yelling all the time. And so Mike is just yelling at Kirk, and Kirk's not backing down. He's like, no, just shut up. Stop. Stop. And then Mike stops yelling. Like,
I love that. I wish they would cut his mic more sometimes, just because the response would be so great from him.
He's just a natural screamer. And it's like, dude, I can't listen to this right now. I'm trying to listen to Kirk, and you're just trying to yell over the top of him. Like, just because you're louder doesn't mean you're right.
And if you are unfortunate enough to hear what he's saying, it gets even worse, because it just does not make sense. It's all jumbled. He thinks you should be able to say whatever you want, and that you should be able to be fired if you say something wrong.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Ziggy.
Well, I was going to ask, who do you think would win in a debate, Mike versus Ellie?
Well, that's what I was going to say is so what? Not 2 days earlier or a day earlier, he's sitting there and multiple times calling Ellie a dumb fuck.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude,
that made Kirk uncomfortable.
Yeah, like why is that your go-to with Ellie when you can't? Again, we've spent how many hours listening to Mike talk about cancel culture, and he still can't explain it. So
yeah, I think Ellie would body bag Mike in a debate. I hate to say.
Absolutely. So, and what tipped me off, what really triggered me that day was the tweet that Mike sent out before he had the show, where he said, I got to hear it. It says, "That's on you, Viacom." When he's talking about Nick Cannon, Viacom let him do a podcast and fired him for speaking. fired him for speaking is not an accurate representation of what happened to Nick Cannon. Like, you'd have to be a dumb fuck to think that's what happened. So
Hitler was killed for setting up summer camps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. So it's like, it was to represent Nick Cannon in that way, like, was so loud, stupid, dumb. And then for him to go in there, it was a great listen, though. I'll give him that. And he is fighting back. I just wish, there was something, he could make sense of it. But that's me being condescending.
I do like you. I like you pointing out that little tick he has where he's like, "What do you mean?" Because
what do you mean?
If you listen back to old shows, he used to do that a lot more in more lighthearted situations, like when he used to do his little Alex Jones impersonations and stuff, and Kirk would try to get him to get like a second line out. He just
he's just trying to gather time.
I missed the mic. I missed the Mike Geary. I like those days of innocent Mike.
He did it, and he did that. What's that guy's name that he had that YouTube show with from Barstool? JDM.
JDM, yeah.
All right. So when Kirk was on him about that, it was the same thing last week. There's a lot of what do you means. In arms when you're watching on the video, there's a lot of what do you means that he's doing.
There's a lot of that's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit.
All right. So the after show, Ziggy. What did you want to talk about in the after show? You had something on your list there.
I think you wanted to talk about Menners versus DC.
Oh, I did. Do you want me to get into that right away? I mean,
we can talk about the other thing.
All right. Well, no, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna get off on this.
Go off, King.
So no, thank you. Yeah. So Menners and DEC went back and forth this week. So today's Friday. Thursday night, DEC puts out his podcast and responds to Menners going off on Wednesday night. Wednesday night. Say what you want about Menners. He is the straw that stirs the drink in the Miniverse when it comes to Wednesday night and Thursday mornings. And that's also has to do with guys like Ziggy and VD and Fez and Blind Prison Mike. There's guys out there that can trigger him and get him going, which is also great. So the haters fuel him. I love the show, and he's going off on DEC in that show, and it was real. And it really pissed me off to listen to that and then to hear DEC's response. And so it was basically DEC's 30 minutes of, acting holier than thou and standing on a mountaintop and using different shields to protect him, and even using a fundraiser. And I'd make the argument that the fundraiser is also just a way to make him appear better than he's not. But the way that he argued and made it look like Menners was blackmailing him as if it was a hostage situation, like it was ransom or taken. To me, it was disgusting, as Steve Robinson would say. I'm so sick of DEC and all of his bullshit. I talked about it a little bit on Menners' show, and I tweeted about it last night too, where DEC has doxed me in that private thread as well, and then immediately apologized afterwards, and then used that as that's about his sobriety, and just that's what he does. So it just gives him this ability to act like an asshole and then immediately apologize for it. But I just think he's an absolute asshole. Like he won't tweet about John's, taking over the show and doing that, the weekend review. He won't tweet about that. He doesn't do that shit. DEC is about him. He wants to be prominent. He wants to be the guy. He wants all the praise for just copying and pasting audio and putting it into his show. I mean, Kirk's the fucking reason why anybody would listen to his show anyway. And now he's got, ad reads where he's doing 3-minute ad reads, about toothpaste and shit like that. I just think he's a total fraud, total phony. I can't stand him, and he won't even talk to me about it, but we're going to have that conversation because, he's not going to use my identity against me or try and threaten me with anything or trying to intimidate me with anything. So we're going to have that conversation. So hopefully, I got that all out there in a nice, calm, and collected
That was
way.
all a joke. That was all a joke, right?
That was all a joke. Yeah, that was all
parody. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was parody. So,
and we do love Dr. Sheffield. So,
I love Dr. Sheffield.
Yeah,
love him.
Put that out
there. I love him. He just when you do a 3.5-minute ad read and talk about putting it on Menners' nipples,
it's easy to skip it.
It's a 30-minute podcast, and he did 7 minutes of ad reads. It's like, just shut up and get to whatever you're getting to, the stupid joke and everything else.
I think it's safe to say that's a host problem, not a sponsor problem.
That is the host.
But yeah, I think I have a lot of takes on the Menners versus DEC. I think I kind of fall in the middle of you guys. I think it's important to look, kind of take a step back and look at what we're dealing with. And we're dealing with two trolls arguing in each other.
Yes.
And I think this is what happens a lot in the miniverse, is that whether or not you identify as a troll, we're all pretty much have troll behavior, and a lot of us are very good at it. And the problem with two trolls arguing is that it can escalate very quickly. And so I think both Menners and DEC have been assholes in this situation. And I've heard Menners try to defend it by saying, well, he thought he had a relationship with DEC where it was kind of banter and they could go back and forth. But I think a lot of that is Menners also not acknowledging that he is a little bit of like a shit stir. He's a little wombat. He's down in Australia. He likes to stir the pot. And, I think DEC retweeting his podcast company thing, we talked about it last week. I do think it's an asshole move, but I think it's a little bit more innocent than, trying to or threatening, or however you want to view it, bringing up something where however you want to view it.
No, hold on. There is, when he tweeted that out, that was Minifans do your thing. That was not out of the kindness of his heart.
No,
he was setting him up, and even last night in that podcast, he still won't admit it because he's that much of a passive aggressive pussy. No, he won't even admit
he's a troll, and he's trolling. He's trolling you right now. He's got everybody in the palm of his hands right now.
He does. Well,
and I will admit that the fundraiser, it's an expert troll move. The sobriety shield is an expert troll move. Yep. So he's doing what he does best. He's a very good passive aggressive troll. Most trolls have to be aggressive. It's a very refined skill to kind of be as as laissez-faire with it, or as step back with it. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but he's very passive with it. He kind of comes from the shadows. He seems just like a nice guy. He's just, I'm just here. I love the show and everything. Everything's good. And then he does have little snake tendencies like that, which I do appreciate. I think it's different because Menners made it very clear that he ran a podcast company. He loves talking about it. It wasn't totally a hidden aspect of his life. To my knowledge, DEC never mentioned that he did a podcast with his son, which to me is a clear effort that he's trying to keep it separate from this world. If Menners had never mentioned, I have a podcast. Go ahead.
If you're trying to keep it separate, you could just do the podcast and you don't need to put it on Apple Podcast or Spotify or anywhere else. You don't need to do that. You could just do the podcast. This is to help with your anxiety or your family's anxiety. We're all going through stuff. I'm not trying to minimize anything.
Right.
Okay? But if you're just doing that to have some fun with your kid, like for me, if I had a son, I'd go play catch with him or something. If you want to sit around and talk to a microphone with your kid, you could do that. There's no judgment here. You just don't need to put it out on Apple Podcasts too.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
That's a psycho move right there.
I guess, but I don't think how we phrased it was his son asked him to do it. So if you're a father and your son asks you to do something, I think you should, you're not going to say no, or I don't know. But
I'm not telling you he shouldn't do that.
I think what's important to remember is Menners didn't put it out to the world.
Absolutely.
According to Menners, he just was using it as a way to get back to DC in the DMs. If we're believing Menners, he had no intent to release it, because I don't think Menners is that cruel. Because if he was, Menners would go ahead and release it right now.
Absolutely,
because he has it. So all he was trying to do, according to Menners, was just get back at him, get back at DC for what DC did. I don't think what DC did was so bad releasing the podcast thing, but at the same time, he used every excuse in the book and tried to cover it. And that, just own up that you were trying to get at Menners.
And you can tell too that this was also coordinated with Steve Robinson. Steve Robinson doesn't know fuck all about what's going on in the miniverse. He has no idea what's going on in social media most of the time. He's totally clueless. But on this topic, he was locked in and ready to go, and he had that ready on that Monday when they were just checking in about the world. The only thing that they mentioned about anybody on Twitter or anything else was his tweet that was sent out there about Menners and his podcasting company. How the hell does Steve Robinson know that, but he doesn't know anything else about anything else? That's clearly something that was between DEC and Steve and their private thread. Absolutely.
If you don't think Steve Robinson was sitting at home just cackling to himself the instant he saw that, then you're crazy. But like I said, in regards to Menners DEC, we're dealing with two assholes here who are trying to out asshole each other, and you can criticize either one of them for, you know, taking a shot at the other that maybe you thought was too far. But the reality of it is like, if you're going to sling mud, then you're going to get mud thrown back at you. That's just how it goes. So I think the instant you enter that arena, I'm really fine with anything that happens, aside from, you know, the serious stuff like doxing and stuff. You got to know it's going to happen. And what I don't like from Menners is that he's playing kind of the victim card, but DEC does that much better. And the instant, even if Menners wasn't threatening DEC, the instant he even inferred that, you're lobbing it up for DEC.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think Menners would not disagree that he's being an asshole here, but DEC, like, he tries to come across as the nice guy, and that's what I think rubs some people the wrong way about DEC. Is it's the classic red two-faced maneuver where on the outside, wait, what? on the outside, he plays all nice, but behind the scenes, he's shivving the knife. So
yeah, see, that's the thing too, is he tries to throw that on me like somehow I'm two-faced on his shit. Like,
takes one to know one.
He'd spent 30 minutes on Woe Is Me DEC. Like, we all have shit going on in our lives. I don't give a rat's ass about your anxiety, your sobriety. I don't care about cancer. I don't care. Like, we all got shit going on. So just shut up and have the conversation with Menners. Don't sit there and have sound to react to. And it's terrible sound quality, by the way. Menners isn't wrong in that. It's a terrible production.
That's what's going to get him. That's what's going to itch his asshole or however.
And it's just, if you don't have MHB, just stop doing it, man, because it's terrible. Just do your thing with your son, and we don't need to listen to it. It's okay, but don't do 30 minutes of Woe Is Me and play the victim. And
I think he had to respond to Menners.
Oh, he did.
And they're going on Mike and the Minifans. So,
but you heard today that he's going to go on Mike and the Minifans, but he pissed off because Menners is going to be on there because DEC doesn't want the conversation. Right. And when DEC went on Menners' show, he didn't do anything but just sat there, and he said he did that intentionally.
He said he did that intentionally,
and he did that intentionally, which is fine, okay. But Menners did him the solid by coming on his podcast earlier, which I know Menners is doing it for fun, and it does help Menners and whatever he's doing. He's promoting his podcast, but you're doing him a solid by going on his show and just giving him good radio, just having some energy. And he was just like a diabetic flopping around, just no energy, low energy piece of shit for no reason, just being that way to be a troll.
Yeah, I think that's the downside of the DEC. Like I said earlier, his skill is kind of being a passive troll. He's never going to be as good confronted on air. He kind of needs to lurk in the shadows to do what he does. So I could see him being not thrilled about having to go on the air with little Menners.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna lose in that shit talking battle every time. So just stop doing it, and don't prop up a pancreatic cancer fundraiser as a way to protect yourself in this shit. Like,
see, I disagree there. I think if you're gonna be
it's a great troll move, VD. Yeah. I know he's a fucking asshole.
But he'll never admit his intentions behind it, which is what makes it a troll move. And if you had to ask him, I'd say there's a 0% chance he was offended by, the cancer comments or the sobriety comments. I mean, I'm in recovery myself. I don't know anybody that cares about that.
We know Red doesn't care.
I do not care
about anyone.
You shouldn't.
No.
Like, you should.
We all got shit going on.
Yeah, we all got shit going on. But the other thing worth noting is I had no problem with those comments from Menners, other than the fact that they were just like probably one of the worst Kirk ripoffs I've ever seen. It was literally like he just slightly rephrased what Kirk had said earlier. It's sad to see because Menners does have a little bit of personality in him, but to see him to just resort to absolute carbon copy Kirk is very sad.
I will say, as a movie fan, if Kirk is the movie Heat, then I would say MHB is then The Town, which would make Menners Den of Thieves. If we're gonna go down that movie line, like all great movies, but Heat, Kirk is Heat, and everybody else falls in line from there. So
yeah, I agree with that.
There you go. How about that? All right, Ziggy.
Wait, I got one more thing on Menners. Yeah. He was very critical, Red, of your appearance on his show. I think he played some of our audio too. And for him to be critical of your appearance is so insane, because he looks like a partially shaved testicle that was like put in a microwave for 8 seconds. So to hear him take shots at us for hiding behind an avatar or for your appearance, I won't take that.
It was hurtful. I think I'm a sexy man. Like I got no problem saying that. And you guys are hiding because you're gonna get doxxed by DEC eventually. So what are we talking about here? Like there's no problems with that. Right. The parody songs and Steve Robinson hiding parody songs. Ziggy, do you have an investigation going on this or what?
Not necessarily investigation, but just before we start, there's 2 indisputable facts about Steve Robinson.
Yes.
So one, he is the clear gatekeeper of what gets played on the show.
Yep.
We agree with that. And then 2, indisputably, Steve is not funny.
That's
so when you have an unfunny person deciding
unintentionally funny, VD. Unintentionally funny when it's funny. Yeah.
Not ha-ha funny.
Not ha-ha
funny.
When you have someone that doesn't necessarily always get the humor, making the decisions of what songs or prank calls get played for the purpose of humor, that's kind of an issue. So I just don't know why like Mike can't be the one. Like Mike has a better gauge of what's funny or what will play on the show. And I know the counter argument as well. Mike can't read, he can't check the emails. There's plenty of interns that could set up a separate email account where all songs or prank calls go to. They send it to Mike. Mike thumbs up, thumbs down, and then you go from there. Instead of 20 seconds of Steve, because we know Steve's busy and he also doesn't have an ear for music. And from a parody artist like myself, a struggling one, I wrote 2 songs. One got played, and after I left all my good material in the bridge of the song, so it was a slow build. They cut it after 30 seconds. I didn't blame them. I wrote another great song, in my opinion, which didn't even make it on because it was a bed and breakfast song played the day. I sent it the day after the Hotel California song. You probably put like 10 plus hours into both those songs for 20 seconds of play on the show, which I don't know. I wish there was a way for at least all the songs and calls to get out there to the public.
Well, you could easily just put together like a lost tapes version and put that on your YouTube, for instance.
Right. Well, so yeah, someone had the good idea of a separate YouTube show of someone playing all the stuff that wasn't on the main show and then critiquing it or giving some advice like what to do better.
Right. And you can still, I mean, you can, even if it's a bad song, like they played some bad songs this week, you can easily have some fun with that too if you wanted to. I did love, it was high comedy, the fact that Steve played a song that was actually already played. So you could tell like he has no way of tracking these things. Yeah. He has no idea what's going on. It makes me laugh when he's trying to play sounds back and he hasn't marked them correctly. So whenever Kirk has him doing that, like he doesn't mark sound well. He doesn't track songs. Like there's a lot of hidden things out there. He has no idea, and he is the gatekeeper for it. It's crazy.
Well, I'll start off by saying that Steve is the best producer in the business. I think he's got a lot going on. Yeah. I do think at the very least, Mike should be the second ear on prank calls and parody songs. It'd be a nice little responsibility for him. But yeah, I think there are a lot of circumstances, even like Ziggy mentioned, where his song came in the day after a Hotel California. Or I know Steve today, I can't remember exactly what he said, but one of the songs was a show when he was out and Carano didn't have the email, stuff like that. So there are extenuating circumstances, but I think he shouldn't be the only one.
The real quick quintessential story that wraps up Steve in a nutshell. So I sent that bed and breakfast song and didn't hear back. The next day I responded and I said, okay, I guess it wasn't good enough. That's fine. By the way, I found this funny Star Trek video of Kirk when he was in high school. I think it would be funny to play on the show. Steve responds, oh, this is amazing. A month goes by and never gets airtime. I follow up in the same email chain. I say, is this ever going to get played? And Steve thought I was referring to the song. So Steve says, oh, I think we played it, but Kirk didn't like it. So we cut it off, which was just a lie. He made that up. And he was ignoring the fact that the Star Trek video was sitting in his inbox. And then the next day he played the Star Trek video. So
Steve
there you
Robinson.
go. He missed something. He lied to cover his ass. And then finally he played it.
They call that the Steve Robinson. I hope he was doing that while he was pissing into a bottle. That would be
which we now know Visionless Dave would love to collect.
Yeah, I will sell that piss.
All right, boys. I think we just did a podcast. Thank you. I think we just did a show.
Perfect.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Rundown.
Have a good one.
Out.
He's called Suck.
Kirk, this is President Donald J. Trump.
Oh, well, then maybe
dare
not. Hello, Mr. President. I'm sorry. Hello, sir. How are you? How are you doing?
Kirk, we're doing very, very good. It's been a crazy couple weeks here. Very crazy, Kirk.
What do you mean?
Not good. Not good for some of our friends.
Like who?
Well, we call him Edgy Kevin.
Oh, boy.
Edgy Kevin. He's got a very hot take. Do you know what it is? Racism?
Yeah?
Not good. Doesn't like it anymore.
Doesn't like it anymore.
Anymore, you're saying?
He used to.
Well, he's apologized for it, I think, sir. Yeah.
He's a flip-flopper. Like John Kerry, he's a big flip-flopper. He was racist. Now he's not racist.
I don't think
he's
he's
racist again.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
I don't know if you know this, Kirk. Rap music? He's a big fan. Likes it a lot.
Oh, is that
Very
right?
good.
I didn't know that. That's good.
That's nice.
Good. Okay.
One of his favorite actors, Denzel Washington. Big,
Wow.
big fan.
That's a
Big
gutsy
league.
take. That is a gutsy take. That is edgy. You are right.
Seems like an odd time to announce all those things, though. I'll say that.
What
Is
else?
that low talent here?
Yeah.
Is that
Sure
low
is.
talent, Mike?
It is.
So little Mikey? Mike, I got your call. I appreciate it. You're a real American for calling it in. We're sending ice to Alba's parents' house.
Thank you, I've been concerned for a long time, and I appreciate you finally taking care of it.
Well, that is a patriotic thing to do.
Yes.
He used the right 2 words. It's called terror cell. Good job, Mikey. Good job.
You got it, boss.
Wow, is that true? Jeez.
Well, listen, it was
They
behind
have
the scene. I
all
didn't want
sorts
to
of maps
brought on
of
air.
downtown Boston in their apartment. Very good. Good job, Mikey. Being American. Hey, Mikey.
Yes, sir.
You know, we haven't had much going on in the country, so I took my cabinet, I put them in a room for 36 hours. I said, do not come out until you have a name for Mike's new podcast. You know what they came up with?
What do they got?
It's called the Why Would Anyone Ever Listen to This Podcast? It's a little wordy, but why would anyone ever listen to a fat blind guy talk about Cheers?
Wow.
That's what they came up with. I don't know what you think.
I'm not sure
problem
that,
is-
I don't know how it looks on the, I'm just thinking on the phone.
Well,
I'm
not
looking
even
at
that. I want people to take the journey and find out. I don't want to just hit them over the head with it.
Well,
I want them to find
I
out.
don't think it'll take them long. That won't be a long journey. I can promise you that.
Mike, it's called something very apparent. People
Yes.
are going to know right off the bat. I have a question, Mikey.
Yes,
Was
sir.
MASH taken? Very emotional moment.
We can get to that as well. That's the thing. That's,
Sure.
There's no limit to what we can
It's incredible.
get into here. Yes.
Yeah, the window you guys
How about
have.
according to Jim? Can you do a minute by minute according to Jim?
I do think that was always underrated.
Really good.
According to Jim.
Really good. Low talent, Mike. And Kirk, you know who else we're going to talk about today? It's
Who is
your little friend, Strange Steve.
Oh, boy.
Strange Steve. He's very strange, Kirk. It's not good.
All right, Mr. President.
You fake news boy. Fake news Steve is what we call you. Steve, I don't even know who this person is. You know, Kirk, we want some more African Americans on the currency. So
Sure.
we've decided we're replacing George Washington.
Okay.
We are.
Mhm.
Steve emailed me this week. He said somebody named Deshaun Jackson.
Is that true, Steve?
You're a fan of this?
Well, I mean, he's in there.
Well, first of all, you emailed the president?
Yeah, we communicate.
that's
I've met him before.
I know that. I've seen the picture, yeah.
We email. But Kirk, it's always good to talk to you, and
Thank
I
you,
want
sir.
you to just pass on a new little nickname for somebody that you work with. We call him People Pleasing Portnoy. People Pleasing Portnoy. Everyone's very happy with him. Very happy. Pat McAfee, Trill Withers, big fans. White Knight commenter. Everybody loves Dave Portnoy. Very, very good.
Thank you, sir.
Excellent.
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Mr. President.
They're not all winners, Kirk, but that's okay. We love you.
Thank you, sir.
He always closes strong.
We'll talk to you soon.